Hi, I'm Jen, and you're listening to The Shadow Sanctuary, where I dig into the history of haunted locations to try and find a correlation between historical fact and paranormal experience. Is there a reason for the haunting? Why does energy stay? Keep listening to find out more. Welcome to The Shadow Sanctuary. I'm your host, Jen, and tonight I'm going to be telling you about Dumas Brothel in Butte, Montana. So let's get into it. Butte is a city in southwestern Montana. The land on which Butte was established is positioned in the Silver Bow Creek Valley, a natural bowl sitting high in the Rocky Mountains. The land surrounding Butte was hunting and fishing area for the native Salish people who had settlements to the northwest. Butte began as a mining camp in the 1860s. In 1874, William Farland staked the asteroid mine and it was followed by an influx of additional miners seeking gold and silver. The mines attracted workers from all over the world. Among the migrants, Chinese workers moved in and set up businesses. Chinese migration stopped in 1882 due to the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act. The influx of miners gave Butte a reputation as a wide open town where any vice was obtainable. The city's famous saloon and red light district, called the Line or the Copper Block, was centered on Mercury Street, where the elegant bordellos included the famous Dumas Brothel. In the 1870s, a group of women called Ladies of the Line began selling sexual services on Park Street in the north of the city of Butte. When the tents and shacks were replaced with legitimate businesses, some years later, the Park Street Girls, as they had come to be known, moved to the south of the city. By the mid 1880s, a variety of dance halls, gambling houses, and saloons had appeared in the city. Two French Canadian brothers, Joseph and Arthur Nadeau, would eventually acquire the most property in Butte's prostitution area, also known as the Red Light District. The brothers built a brothel in 1890 on 45 East Mercury Street and named it for Delia Nadeau, Dumas Joseph's wife. By the turn of the century, there were three high-class sex houses in Butte, Dumas Brothel, also known as Dumas Hotel, being one of them. The Dumas Brothel is a two-story brick building. It includes a basement level that contains clandestine tunnels. A single-story addition was added to the rear of the main structure in 1912, and this led directly onto the famous brick-lined Venus Alley. Scant details are known about the early history of Dumas Brothel. By 1900, the brothel was occupied by Madame Grace McGinnis and her servant, a Chinese prostitute. The cost of sex in the brothel at the turn of the 20th century was 50 cents, with the girls receiving about 40% of that amount. By 1902, Madame McGinnis had only 5 working girls and a musician under her employment. By 1910, there were only 2 women reported to be living at Dumas. In 1913, the brothel was expanded again, increasing the number of rooms by 8. The brothel added 5 partitions and a staircase in 1916. World War I Prohibition impelled local lawmakers to crack down on Butte's red light district. By 1917, the district was closed. The Dumas, however, remained open. In 1925, Anne Vallée began overseeing the brothel for the Nadeau family, and in the 1930s, operations passed to Madame Rose Davis. In 1940, Lillian Walden and her husband Dick began running the brothel, raising the price of sex to $2. 3 years later, the U.S. government ordered all brothels shut down to prevent the spread of venereal diseases among soldiers in World War II. In response, Dumas began operating even more furtively, now under the guise of being a boarding house. When Lillian Walden retired in 1950, the price for service at the brothel was $5. Afterwards, Dumas operations went to Eleanor Knott. In 1955, she committed suicide after her lover died of a heart attack. In the late 1960s, several local police took the initiative to close down the brothel. Duma did not remain closed for long, however, with its next madam, Bonita Farron. It remained operating from 1955 until her death from cancer in 1969. In 1970, the Duma brothel was listed on the National Register of Historic Places as a Victorian brothel. In 1971, Ruby Garrett, a local resident, purchased the Duma and paid local police officers and officials $200 to $300 a month in return for silence about the Duma activities. Under Garrett, the cost of a prostitute was $20. Garrett was charged for tax evasion in 1981. In 1982, the Duma brothel was closed for good. When it closed, it was the longest running brothel in the United States, having operated for 92 years. In 1982, Ruby Garrett sold the Duma to Rudy Guyek, and he turned it into a museum, and it operated as such for most of the 1990s. The brothel was sold again in 2012, and in 2018, David and Charlie Prince purchased the Duma and restored the building. Various people have reported sighting a ghostly woman with a suitcase in the Duma. Several years ago, an artist visited the brothel and tried to make a painting in one of the rooms. Each time she sat down to work, she felt compelled to paint the face of a woman she had never met. It haunted her. She had to leave the room to paint elsewhere. Visitors and staff at the brothel report a black shadow figure, feeling icy cold gusts of air, and the sensation of being touched by an unseen hand. Duma Brothel is located at 45 East Mercury Street, Butte, Montana. The Duma Brothel is a museum. They offer paranormal tours. They are open between the months of March and November and every other Saturday between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Check out dumabrothel.com for more info. If you pay them a visit, let them know the Shadow Sanctuary podcast sent you. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check us out on Facebook for more information on upcoming episodes. As always, don't let the eerie vibes fade too quickly. Stay haunted, my friends.